To our wonderful viewers at Infidelity Tales Lab, welcome and thank you for joining us. Your presence keeps us motivated. Quick question before we start. What part of the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Alex McKinney stood at his office window on the 42nd floor of Henderson Global, staring at the spreadsheet reflected in the glass. Numbers never lied. That's why he'd chosen forensic accounting. People could deceive, manipulate, and betray, but financial records always told the truth if you knew where to look. His attention shifted to a familiar figure leaving the building below. His wife Lupe's dark hair caught the evening light as she walked to her car. It was 8:45 p.m., another late night. The third this week. She told him it was quarter-end reporting, but the quarterly reports had been filed 2 weeks ago. Still here, McKinney? Jan Bryant's voice came from his office doorway. His colleague's expression held a mix of concern and something else. Pity? You should head home. Those numbers will still be there tomorrow. Alex turned, maintaining his composed demeanor. Just finishing up the audit on the executive expense accounts. Found some interesting patterns. Jan crossed the room, glancing at his monitor. Her eyes widened slightly at the highlighted entries. Team dinners at the Ritz? That's not our usual corporate style. No, Alex replied, scrolling through the records. These are all from my wife's department. Approved by Kenneth Hayes himself. Interesting timing, too. All on nights I was out of town for audits. Alex? Jan hesitated, then pulled up a chair. I've been meaning to talk to you about something. There are rumors. About Kenneth and Lupe? His voice remained steady, betraying none of the anger churning beneath his surface. I'm aware of the office gossip. It's more than gossip. Sarah from HR saw them at La Maison last month. They didn't look like they were discussing business. Alex nodded, pulling up another spreadsheet. This one showed his own travel records for the past year. Every team dinner coincided perfectly with his business trips. Kenneth had gotten sloppy, too confident in his position as CEO to bother hiding the evidence well. You know, Jan said carefully, I have a friend, Bert Alvarado. He's a private investigator. Very discreet. If you wanted to know, for sure. Write down his number, Alex replied, sliding her a notepad. His wedding ring caught the light. A reminder of promises made and broken. I think it's time I had some concrete answers. After Jan left, Alex pulled up the company photo directory. Kenneth Hayes' arrogant smile filled the screen. The golden boy who'd married into the Wilson family and climbed to CEO. Alex had always found it interesting how his children, Emma and Thomas, had the same distinctive green eyes as Kenneth. He dismissed it as coincidence, but now, he opened his phone's photo gallery, scrolling through family pictures. Emma was 10 now, Thomas 8. The timeline matched perfectly with when Lupe had started working directly under Kenneth. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture he should have seen years ago. His phone buzzed with a text from Lupe, working late again. Don't wait up. Alex typed back a simple okay while opening his email to contact Bert Alvarado. He thought about the children at home with their nanny, probably already in bed. His children, regardless of biology. The rage he felt wasn't just about Lupe's betrayal anymore. It was about years of deception, about two innocent kids who deserved better. The office had emptied out, leaving him alone with the damning financial records. He began methodically documenting everything, creating backup copies on a secure drive. Kenneth might be CEO, but Alex knew every financial skeleton in the company's closet. If there was more to uncover, he'd find it. His office phone rang, the security desk. Mr. McKinney, your wife's car is still in the garage, but we saw her leaving with Mr. Hayes about 20 minutes ago. She asked us to let you know she got a ride. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you telling me. Alex's grip tightened on the phone, but his voice remained professional. After hanging up, he stared at the business card Jan had left. Bert Alvarado's number seemed to burn on the paper. Alex McKinney had built his career on finding truth in numbers. Now it was time to uncover the truth about his life. The offices of Alvarado Investigations occupied a modest suite in a downtown commercial building. Alex sat across from Bert Alvarado, a former police detective with shrewd eyes and a methodical manner that matched Alex's own approach to problems. I've been following them for 3 weeks, Bert said, spreading surveillance photos across his desk. The affair is definitely physical. They're not even particularly careful about hiding it anymore. Alex examined the photos with clinical detachment. Kenneth and Lupe entering hotels, sharing intimate dinners, walking with their hands linked. The betrayal stung, but it wasn't surprising anymore. But that's not why I asked you to come in today, Bert continued, pulling out an older file. When I start investigating someone, I go deep. Kenneth Hayes has quite a history, and your wife's infidelity might be the least of his crimes. He laid out another series of photos, these dated 6 years ago. They showed Kenneth meeting with 2 men in a parking garage. Recognize either of these guys? Alex leaned forward, studying the grainy images. No, should I? The one on the left is Marcus Rivera. He's done time for grand theft, auto, and insurance fraud. Specializes in making accidents look natural. The other guy is Joey the Wrench Martinez. He's suspected in at least 3 contract killings, but nothing ever stuck. What's Kenneth doing with them? Bert pulled out more photos, these showing Kenneth handing over an envelope. This meeting took place 2 weeks before Robert Wilson's fatal car accident. Wilson was Kenneth's father-in-law, right? The founder of Henderson Global. Alex's mind raced, connecting dots. Robert Wilson opposed Kenneth taking over as CEO. He was planning to bring in an outside executive team. Then he died in that crash, brake failure on a mountain road. Exactly. Bert spread out police reports and newspaper clippings. The official investigation ruled it an accident, but Detective Robin Cherry never closed the case. She was convinced something was off about the brake lines. And Kenneth took over as CEO within a month, Alex added, remembering the rapid transition. His wife Stacy inherited her father's controlling shares, but she let Kenneth run everything. Speaking of Stacy, Bert pushed forward another photo, this one recent. It showed Stacy Hayes leaving a police station. She's been meeting with Detective Cherry regularly for the past year. I think she suspects something, but hasn't had enough evidence to act. Alex studied the photo of Stacy, an elegant woman with a haunted expression. Can you arrange a meeting with her? Somewhere private? Already did. Bert handed him a business card for a small cafe. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. She's expecting you. One more thing, Alex said, pulling out his phone. He showed Bert pictures of Emma and Thomas. I need DNA tests. Discreet ones? Bert's expression softened slightly. I can arrange that. But are you sure you want to know? I need to know everything, Alex replied firmly. Every lie, every betrayal. If I'm going to act, I need the complete truth. As Alex stood to leave, Bert held up one more photo. Kenneth receiving an envelope from Lupe in his office. Your wife isn't just having an affair with him. She's involved in whatever he's doing. These weekly envelope exchanges started right after Robert Wilson's death. Document everything, Alex instructed, his voice cold. I want a complete picture of what we're dealing with. He left Bert's office with a thick folder of evidence and a clearer sense of purpose. This wasn't just about his marriage anymore. There was something darker at Henderson Global's heart, and Kenneth Hayes was at the center of it. The cafe was tucked away on a quiet side street, its worn brick exterior and faded awning making it easy to overlook. Alex arrived early, selecting a corner table with a clear view of both entrances. Stacy Hayes walked in precisely at 2 p.m., her designer clothes and perfect posture marking her as out of place in the modest surroundings. She spotted him immediately, making her way through the scattered tables. Up close, Alex could see the strain beneath her polished exterior, slight shadows under her eyes, tension in her jaw. Mr. McKinney, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. I've been expecting someone from the company to figure it out eventually. I just didn't think it would be you. Please call me Alex. He waited until the waitress had taken their order and moved away before continuing. I assume you know why I'm here? My husband's affair with your wife? A bitter smile crossed her face. That's old news to me. Kenneth's never been particularly discreet about his indiscretions. But that's not why you arranged this meeting, is it? Alex pulled out several photos from his briefcase, laying them carefully on the table. Stacy's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the image of Kenneth meeting with Rivera and Martinez. Where did you get these? She whispered. A private investigator. The same one who documented Kenneth's current activities. Alex paused as the waitress delivered their coffee, waiting until they were alone again. These were taken 2 weeks before your father's accident. Stacy's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. You found something concrete, didn't you? About what really happened to Daddy. Kenneth hired someone to tamper with your father's brake lines, Alex stated quietly. The man in the photo, Marcus Rivera, specializes in making accidents look natural. The payment was laundered through a series of shell companies, but I found the trail. I knew it. Stacy's voice cracked slightly. I've suspected for years, but could never prove it. Detective Cherry and I have been gathering evidence, but we needed something solid to connect Kenneth to the actual murder. She reached into her purse, pulling out a USB drive. I've been collecting my own evidence. Financial records, emails, conversations I've recorded. Kenneth gets careless when he drinks, especially around his mistresses. Your wife isn't the first, you know, but she's lasted the longest. Because she helps him, Alex said, sharing what Bert had discovered about the envelope exchanges. She's been actively involved in covering his tracks. Stacy nodded grimly. Daddy never trusted Kenneth. He saw through the charming facade to the predator underneath. That's why he was planning to bring in outside management. Kenneth couldn't let that happen. He needed control of the company to cover up his other activities. What other activities? Money laundering primarily. Fake vendors, inflated contracts, funds disappearing into offshore accounts. I've traced some of it, but the deeper financial details are beyond my expertise. She looked at him meaningfully. That's where someone with your skills could be invaluable. Alex took a slow sip of his coffee, considering. You want justice for your father. I want Kenneth destroyed, Stacy corrected, her voice hard. Completely and publicly. I want everyone to see what he really is. I've been waiting for the right moment, gathering allies. With your help, with solid proof of his crimes, we could finally act. And Lupe? What happens to her? Stacy's expression held no sympathy. She made her choice. She's not just Kenneth's lover. She's his accomplice. Every document she's shredded, every lie she's told, every time she helped him cover his tracks, she's as guilty as he is. Alex thought about his children, about years of deception. I need time to gather more evidence, to document everything properly. Of course. Stacy stood, leaving her coffee untouched. Detective Cherry has kept my father's case open all these years. She'll want to meet with you once you have something concrete. At the door, she paused. Be careful, Alex. Kenneth's charming facade hides a monster. If he suspects you're investigating him, I know how to play the long game, Alex assured her. Kenneth won't see me coming until it's too late. After Stacy left, Alex remained at the table, watching the city bustle past the window. He had all the pieces now. Kenneth's crimes, Lupe's betrayal, the truth about his children's parentage. The rage he'd felt earlier had crystallized into something colder, more focused. Kenneth Hayes had built his empire on murder and betrayal. Now it was time to tear that empire down, piece by carefully documented piece. Alex pulled out his phone, texting Bert to arrange another meeting. They had work to do. The 37th floor of Henderson Global was silent after hours, save for the quiet hum of Alex's computer and the rustling of papers. His corner office had transformed into a war room over the past 3 weeks, walls covered with financial records and surveillance photos held together with red string, a visual map of Kenneth's crimes. These transactions are classic money laundering, Alex explained, gesturing to his monitor where Stacy and Detective Robin Cherry huddled around his desk. Look at the pattern. Funds move through these shell companies in exactly the same sequence every time. Stacy leaned closer, her designer perfume a sharp contrast to the musty scent of old financial records. Can you trace it back to Kenneth? Better. Alex pulled up another spreadsheet, this one color-coded to highlight specific transactions. I found his fingerprints all over it. See these authorization codes? They're all variations of his wife's birthday, August 15th. He used 815, 1508, even binary versions of the number. Detective Cherry straightened, her weathered face showing newfound interest. Ego. That's what always trips them up. They can't resist leaving their mark. Exactly. Alex switched to another screen. And look at these dates. Every major accident in the company's history is preceded by similar payment patterns. Your father's death, Stacy. Lorenzo's framing. Flora's removal. The amounts vary, but the structure is identical. Stacy's hands trembled slightly as she studied the dates. 3 days before Daddy's crash, these payments to offshore accounts, routed through 7 different companies, Alex confirmed. But the end recipient? Marcus Rivera's gambling front in Atlantic City. The same Marcus Rivera who specializes in vehicular accidents. Detective Cherry pulled out her own files. 6 years of accumulated evidence about Robert Wilson's death. The brake tampering was professional work. Too clean to trace physically. But money always leaves a trail, Alex finished. Kenneth got arrogant. Started keeping trophies. Records of his successful eliminations. Speaking of arrogance, Stacy said, sorting through a stack of recent expense reports. Look at these charges from last month. Dinner for 2 at Le Cirque, $897. Presidential suite at the Peninsula, $2,400 per night. Cartier purchase, $15,750. All filed as business development expenses. Alex's jaw tightened imperceptibly. The Cartier receipt was dated 3 days before his wedding anniversary. The same day Lupe had claimed to be working late on quarterly reports. The company's annual party is in 3 weeks, Stacy mentioned, watching Alex carefully. Kenneth always gets theatrical when he drinks. Uses it as an opportunity to assert dominance. You mean humiliate people, Robin corrected bluntly. I've witnessed his behavior at previous events. He loves putting on a show, especially with his conquests. She glanced apologetically at Alex. Perfect. Alex's voice held no emotion. The more secure he feels, the more likely he is to make mistakes. What's the status on the warrant, detective? Robin pulled out her notebook. Judge Harrison is reviewing the evidence. She's thorough. Wants everything buttoned up tight before signing. These corporate cases can get messy without solid documentation. I've been compiling a witness list, Stacy added, opening her laptop. Former employees who were pushed out. Rivals who were mysteriously discredited. Anyone who ever stood up to Kenneth. Alex studied the names scrolling past. Lorenzo Humphrey, the embezzlement case. 3 years ago, right? Manufactured evidence, Robin said. Too perfect, like someone created it specifically to frame him. He was investigating unusual payments when suddenly money appeared in accounts he supervised. And Flora Stevens, Stacy continued. Our original CFO. She started questioning certain transactions. Then suddenly, there were rumors about drug abuse, mental instability. Find them, Alex instructed. Quietly. Kenneth still has people loyal to him in every department. If he suspects we're building a case, he'll destroy more evidence, Robin finished. Like he's been doing for years, with help from Lupe, Alex cut in, his tone final. Document everything she touches. Every file accessed, every document shredded. When this ends, I want her role as his accomplice clearly established. Alex, Stacy's voice softened. The children deserve to know the truth about both their parents. His expression brooked no argument. Kenneth and Lupe chose their path. Now they'll face the consequences. They worked until midnight building their case methodically. Alex's forensic skills uncovered layers of financial manipulation. Stacy's inside knowledge provided context. Robin's investigative experience helped them organize the evidence for maximum legal impact. 3 weeks, Alex said as they prepared to leave. Everything needs to be ready by the party. Kenneth will be there, guard down, probably drunk. With Lupe, Stacy added. He loves showing off their relationship at company events. Good. Alex's smile held no warmth. Let him. It's time everyone saw the truth. Lorenzo Humphrey's new office occupied a modest suite in a downtown business center, worlds away from his former executive position at Henderson Global. The small consulting firm he'd built after his disgrace was housed in a space barely larger than his old corner office, but the certificates on the wall told a story of rebuilding. Smaller clients, honest work, integrity over profit. The first red flag was in the Asian market acquisitions, Lorenzo explained, spreading decades-old documents across his desk. Alex sat across from him, while Stacy took notes on her tablet. The numbers looked clean on the surface, but the subsidiary reports showed discrepancies. Small ones at first, easily explained away as currency fluctuations. But they grew, Alex prompted, pulling out his own copies of the reports. Exponentially, Lorenzo pointed to specific entries. By the time I started asking questions, we were talking millions in unexplained variations. Money moving through shell companies, fake vendors, inflated contracts. I documented everything. Until the evidence implicated you instead, Stacy said quietly. Lorenzo's expression darkened. One day I'm investigating suspicious payments. The next I'm being accused of orchestrating them. The evidence against me was perfect. Too perfect. Every document pointed to my involvement. Even my own records seemed to confirm it. Kenneth had helped creating that illusion, Alex said, sliding forward a stack of papers. Recognize these signatures? Lorenzo studied the documents, his face tightening. Lupe Young. She was always there, hovering in the background. I thought she was just collecting information for Kenneth's personal use. Office gossip, affair material. I never realized she was actively participating in the fraud. She's been his partner in more ways than one, Alex confirmed, his voice neutral. Creating false documentation, misdirecting investigations, destroying evidence that might expose Kenneth's schemes. Why show me all this now? Because we're building a case, Stacy explained. Your situation fits a pattern. Anyone who questioned Kenneth's authority ended up discredited or dead. Lorenzo's eyes widened. Like Robert Wilson. Exactly. Alex leaned forward. We have evidence linking Kenneth to professional criminals, including the man who tampered with Robert's brakes. Your testimony about the financial fraud could help establish the pattern of elimination. Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment, then walked to a painting on his wall. Behind it was a small safe. I kept copies of everything, he said, removing files. All the original documents showing the discrepancies, proof of the real transactions. Kenneth thought he destroyed them all, but my father taught me never to keep all the evidence in one place. The next stop was harder. Flora Stevens had maintained her dignity after Kenneth's campaign to destroy her, but the scars were evident in her careful demeanor. Her home office was immaculate, every file perfectly organized, the habits of a woman who'd learned the hard way about keeping precise records. The board trusted Kenneth completely, Flora recalled, examining their evidence. Robert's death was still fresh, and Kenneth played the grieving son-in-law perfectly. When I started questioning certain patterns in our accounts, he orchestrated your removal, Alex finished. Like Lorenzo, like anyone who threatened his control, not just removal. Flora's voice held carefully controlled anger. He destroyed everything I'd built. 20 years of reputation gone in weeks. Suddenly there were rumors, substance abuse, mental instability, sexual harassment claims. All lies, but carefully constructed ones. We can prove they were lies, Alex assured her. We have evidence of similar campaigns against others. Your testimony could help establish Kenneth's methodology. Flora's eyes narrowed. What about your wife? Lupe was Kenneth's favorite weapon against me. Every rumor, every false claim, somehow she was always involved. She'd come to my office, all sympathy and concern, then twist everything I said into evidence of my instability. She'll face consequences too, Alex said firmly. No one's getting away with this anymore. During these meetings, Lupe remained oblivious to the gathering storm. Alex maintained his routine at home, watching as she made excuses for late nights and weekend work meetings. Through the house's security system, he recorded her phone conversations, discussions with friends about Kenneth's promises to leave Stacy, plans for their future together once he took full control of the company. We've documented 67 instances of evidence tampering, Robin reported during their next meeting. Lupe's fingerprints are on nearly 40 of them. She wasn't just covering for his affairs. She was actively participating in the financial fraud. She's gotten careless lately, Stacy observed, more obvious in her support of Kenneth. I think she believes she's untouchable now. Everyone's untouchable, Alex said quietly, until they're not. The case was building piece by damning piece. Lorenzo's hidden records provided historical context. Flora's meticulous documentation showed the evolution of Kenneth's tactics. Other former employees came forward, each adding threads to the tapestry of corruption they were weaving. 3 weeks until the company party. 3 weeks to ensure every detail was perfect, every witness prepared, every piece of evidence authenticated. Kenneth's arrogance had led him to keep trophies of his crimes. Now those same trophies would ensure his destruction. The morning before the company party dawned crisp and clear. Alex had spent the night reviewing their evidence one final time, ensuring every document was properly copied and secured in multiple locations. The children had already left for school, Emma to her violin lesson, Thomas to soccer practice, when he heard Lupe's key in the door. She'd been out all night again, claiming a late meeting followed by drinks with her team. Her designer dress and smudged makeup told a different story. Alex sat at the kitchen island, calmly drinking his coffee as she tried to slip upstairs. Late night with Kenneth? He asked conversationally, watching her freeze mid-step. The Grand Hotel security cameras have excellent resolution, though I suppose the presidential suite does offer some privacy. Lupe turned slowly, her expression shifting from shock to calculation to defiance in rapid succession. How long have you known? About the affair? The children's real father? Or your role in Kenneth's criminal enterprises? Alex took another sip of coffee. The security desk keeps very detailed logs of who leaves the building and with whom. They've been quite helpful. So, Lupe's laugh was harsh, mocking. What are you going to do about it? That depends on you. Alex pulled out a thick folder. We should discuss the Cartier bracelet Kenneth bought you, the one filed as a business development expense. Or perhaps the documents you've been shredding for him. I have copies. You're bluffing? But her voice held a note of uncertainty. Kenneth's twice the man you'll ever be, she sneered, recovering her composure. And those kids? They were never yours. We've been laughing at you for years. Poor, pathetic Alex, raising another man's children. Laughing about Robert Wilson's death, too. Alex kept his voice level, watching her confidence falter. Or Lorenzo's framing. Flora's destruction? You've been quite busy helping Kenneth cover his tracks. You can't prove anything. Her hands gripped her designer purse tightly. Every document you shredded, Alex began methodically, laying out papers one by one. Every file you altered. Every false statement you filed. I have copies of everything, Lupe. Kenneth's not as clever as he thinks, and you're not as careful as you should be. These are nothing, she dismissed, but her eyes kept darting to the documents. Minor irregularities. You're seeing conspiracies where there are none. Really? Alex pulled out his phone, playing a recording. Lupe's voice, clearly instructing an intern about which files to misplace before the next audit. I have hundreds of hours like this. Every conversation, every meeting, every late-night rendezvous where you and Kenneth discussed covering your tracks. You've been spying on me? Her voice rose with indignation. Gathering evidence, Alex corrected calmly. The same way you gathered evidence against Flora Stevens. Tell me, did you enjoy destroying her reputation? Was it a thrill helping Kenneth ruin all those lives? Everything we did was justified, Lupe spat. Kenneth built this company into what it is today. Robert Wilson was weak, stuck in the past. Lorenzo and Flora were threats that needed to be eliminated. Alex's phone recorded every word as Lupe continued, her arrogance finally overwhelming her caution. She detailed her role in Kenneth's schemes, proud of how she'd helped him maintain control, convinced of their inevitable triumph. You've got nothing, she finished confidently. Kenneth owns this company. No one will believe you over him. By this time tomorrow, you'll be the one discredited and destroyed. We'll discuss this at the party, Alex said calmly, gathering his papers. Bring Kenneth. I'm sure he'll want to hear what I have to say. Is that supposed to frighten me? Lupe laughed. Kenneth's been planning something special for you at the party anyway. It's time everyone knew the truth about us. Yes, Alex agreed, his smile cold. It is. He left her standing in the kitchen, her face slowly shifting from confidence to concern as she processed his calm demeanor. Everything was prepared for tomorrow. Stacy had the evidence secured in multiple locations. Robin had her warrants ready. Lorenzo and Flora were prepared to testify. The party that Kenneth had used to humiliate so many others would become the stage for his downfall. Alex's phone buzzed with a text from Stacy. Final preparations complete. No turning back now. He didn't bother responding. There had never been any question of turning back. Kenneth's arrogance, Lupe's betrayal, their shared contempt for everyone they'd destroyed. It would all end tomorrow. Sometimes the best revenge was simply letting people destroy themselves with their own hubris. Alex drove to work, already focusing on the final details. The carefully crafted plan was in motion, every piece positioned perfectly. Tomorrow would change everything, but today there was still work to do. The Grand Hotel's ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and success. Henderson Global's annual party was their most lavish yet, with ice sculptures depicting the company logo and champagne flowing freely. Alex adjusted his perfectly tailored suit as he observed the scene from near the entrance. Kenneth held court near the bar, already 3 drinks in despite the early hour. His arm was wrapped possessively around Lupe's waist as she laughed too loudly at his jokes. Her red dress was new, another business expense, no doubt. Everything's in position, Detective Robin Cherry murmured, appearing beside Alex in an elegant black pantsuit that concealed her service weapon. Officers are stationed at every exit. Judge Harrison signed the warrants an hour ago. Stacy. Alex kept his voice low, maintaining his relaxed posture. In position with the second team. Lorenzo and Flora are here too, keeping a low profile until needed. Robin sipped her water, disguised as champagne. Your wife seems to be enjoying herself. Alex watched as Lupe pressed herself closer to Kenneth, both of them casting smug glances his way. Kenneth whispered something in her ear that made her laugh maliciously. Their arrogance was palpable, clearly believing this party would be another opportunity to humiliate him publicly. Across the room, Emma and Thomas played with other employees' children in a special area set up for the night. Even at this distance, their resemblance to Kenneth was striking. The same green eyes, the same aristocratic features. They were speaking with their biological father more openly now, drawn to him by some instinctive pull they didn't understand. Does it bother you? Robin asked quietly, following his gaze. Seeing them with him? No, Alex replied truthfully. Biology doesn't make a father. Kenneth's about to learn that, along with many other lessons. The party swirled around them in waves of expensive perfume and corporate politics. Junior executives jockeyed for position near Kenneth, while longer-serving employees traded knowing looks about his obvious affair with Lupe. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Kenneth always put on a show at these events. Look who decided to show up, Kenneth's voice carried deliberately across the room. McKinney actually found the courage to face everyone. Guess he's tougher than we thought. Right, honey? He pulled Lupe closer, smirking. Several employees shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. They'd all witnessed similar scenes before. Kenneth humiliating those he considered beneath him, asserting his dominance through casual cruelty. Alex merely smiled, checking his watch. The timing had to be perfect. Each player had their role, their moment. Kenneth's arrogance would be his downfall, but first, they needed him at his most unguarded. He's starting early tonight, Stacy observed, appearing at Alex's other side in a stunning blue gown. 3 weeks of anticipation must have him excited. He's been bragging to the board members about having something special planned. Let him play his games, Alex replied calmly. The night's still young. He watched Kenneth order another drink, noted how Lupe's hand shook slightly despite her confident pose. Their confrontation yesterday had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. Good. Let them spend these last moments believing they were in control. Emma waved from across the room, and Alex waved back. Soon they would understand everything. Why their mother was leaving. Why their world was about to change. He'd arranged for their favorite aunt to pick them up in an hour before things got ugly. They didn't need to witness what was coming. The ice sculptures began to melt, drops of water falling like tears. Kenneth's path to self-destruction began exactly as Alex had predicted. By 9 o'clock, the CEO's face was flushed with expensive scotch and hubris. He'd been getting progressively louder, more demonstrative with Lupe, clearly building toward something. McKinney's, Kenneth called out, weaving slightly as he approached the bar where Alex stood. Having a good time? Enjoying the view. He pulled Lupe close, his hand sliding possessively down her hip. Your wife certainly is. Alex maintained his relaxed posture, taking a measured sip of his club soda. Kenneth, Lupe, you both seem festive. Oh, we're celebrating, Kenneth smirked, gesturing for another drink. Aren't we, honey? Tell him what we're celebrating. Lupe's smile was sharp with malice. Kenneth's finally making some changes in the company. And in his personal life. She twisted her new Cartier bracelet meaningfully. Big changes, Kenneth slurred, pulling her closer. Time to clear out the dead weight. Starting with certain members of the accounting department who can't even keep their own house in order. A small crowd had gathered, drawn by Kenneth's rising voice. Exactly as planned. Alex noted Detective Cherry's subtle nod from across the room. The officers were in position. Guess what, loser? Kenneth's voice dripped with contempt. Your wife's been coming to me for years. Better performance, if you know what I mean, right, honey? He smirked at Lupe, who giggled dutifully. Oh, and those kids of yours? They're mine too. We've all known it for years. Everyone in the company knows. Been laughing behind your back this whole time. The gathered crowd shifted uncomfortably. Several people avoided Alex's gaze, ashamed of their complicity in years of workplace humiliation. Funny you should mention that, Alex replied calmly, straightening his tie. Your wife already knows about you too. He paused, watching their smug expressions waver. She also has evidence of your involvement in her father's murder. Kenneth's face froze mid-sneer. Lupe's champagne glass slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers, shattering on the marble floor. What did you say? Kenneth's voice had lost its arrogant slur. You heard me. Alex's tone remained conversational. The brake lines, Kenneth? Really? Couldn't think of anything less obvious? Though I suppose Marcus Rivera's expertise made it look natural enough. You don't know what you're talking about, Kenneth snarled, but his eyes darted around the room, searching for exits. The offshore accounts were clever, Alex continued. 7 layers of shell companies. But using variations of your wife's birthday as authorization codes? That's just sloppy. Almost as sloppy as filing your mistress's jewelry as business expenses. Lupe tried to step away, but Kenneth's grip on her arm tightened painfully. He's lying, she said quickly. Kenneth, tell them he's lying. Oh, I have proof, Alex assured them. Every document you thought you destroyed, every conversation you thought was private, every transaction you thought was hidden. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the money trail to Rivera? Or the pattern of convenient accidents whenever someone questioned your authority? You son of a— Kenneth lunged forward, but froze as Stacy's voice cut through the tension. Remember when you promised to love, honor, and cherish me, Kenneth? Stacy's heels clicked against marble as she approached, Detective Cherry and 2 uniformed officers following. Was that before or after you had my father killed? The crowd gasped. Kenneth's face contorted with rage. Stacy, don't be ridiculous. Robert's death was an accident. Like Lorenzo's embezzlement? Alex interjected. Or Flora's mental breakdown. Amazing how many accidents happen around you. You can't prove anything, Kenneth spat, but his eyes kept darting between the officers. That's where you're wrong. Robin stepped forward, badge displayed. Kenneth Hayes, you're under arrest for the murder of Robert Wilson, conspiracy to commit fraud, and multiple counts of financial crimes. This is absurd. Kenneth tried to shove Lupe aside, looking for an escape route. I own this company. You can't. Actually, Stacy interrupted, I own this company. My father's shares transferred to me. Remember? I just needed proof of what you did to him. Proof Alex helped me find. Lupe. Kenneth turned desperately to his mistress. Tell them it's all lies. But Lupe was backing away, her face pale. Kenneth, I didn't know about. Don't bother denying it, Alex said coldly. We have copies of every document you shredded, every file you altered. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you accessing my travel schedules? Planning your little rendezvous around my business trips? You're both under arrest, Robin announced. Mrs. Young, you're being charged as an accessory after the fact. We have evidence of your involvement in destroying evidence and facilitating financial fraud. You can't do this, Kenneth snarled as the officers moved in. Do you know who I am? I'll destroy all of you. No, Kenneth, Alex replied calmly. You've already destroyed yourself. Your arrogance, your cruelty, your belief that you were untouchable. That's what brought you down. I just helped things along. The officers began reading Kenneth his rights. He struggled, shouting threats and obscenities. Lupe tried to run, but was quickly caught, her designer dress tearing as she was handcuffed. The party guests watched in stunned silence as the CEO of Henderson Global and his mistress were led away in handcuffs. Stacy stood tall, vindicated at last. Lorenzo and Flora emerged from the crowd, ready to provide their testimony about years of systematic abuse and fraud. Alex straightened his cuffs, his composure never wavering. The children were safely away, spared from witnessing their mother's disgrace. Tomorrow would bring questions and changes, but tonight justice was finally being served. Mr. McKinney, Robin paused on her way out. We'll need your statement. Of course. Alex picked up his briefcase, containing copies of every damning document. I believe you'll find everything in order. The ice sculptures had melted completely now, puddles of water spreading across the marble floor like tears of relief. The arrest became headline news by morning. Henderson Global CEO arrested for murder splashed across every major newspaper. Kenneth's face, contorted with rage as he was led from the Grand Hotel in handcuffs, made the front page of the business section. Lupe's desperate attempt to flee, her expensive dress torn and makeup streaked, featured prominently in the society columns. The evidence is overwhelming, Detective Cherry reported during their follow-up meeting. She spread case files across her desk while Alex and Stacy reviewed the details. Kenneth's entire empire was built on murder and fraud. Once we started pulling threads, everything unraveled. The board has called an emergency meeting, Stacy added, checking her phone. They're voting to remove Kenneth and restructure the company leadership. Most of them are desperate to distance themselves from the scandal. Alex nodded, reviewing financial statements. The forensic audit team has identified over $30 million in fraudulent transactions. Every major accident in the company's history traces back to Kenneth's offshore accounts. And Lupe? Robin asked carefully. Her involvement was deeper than we initially thought, Alex replied, his voice steady. She didn't just destroy evidence. She actively participated in creating false documentation. The DA is charging her as a co-conspirator in multiple felonies. The evidence mounted daily. Former employees came forward with new testimony. Lorenzo's name was officially cleared, the false embezzlement charges exposed as Kenneth's fabrication. Flora's reputation was restored, her forced resignation revealed as part of Kenneth's systematic elimination of threats. In the weeks that followed, Henderson Global underwent a complete transformation. The board, eager to salvage the company's reputation, implemented sweeping changes. Stacy took control of her inherited shares, installing a new management team committed to transparency and ethical practices. The company needs someone with both financial expertise and unquestionable integrity, Stacy announced during a board meeting. That's why I'm nominating Alex McKinney as our new CFO. The vote was unanimous. Alex's role in exposing the corruption had made him a symbol of corporate accountability. His methodical gathering of evidence had not only brought down Kenneth's criminal enterprise, but had also preserved the company's core operations. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Kenneth's arrogance crumbled in the face of overwhelming evidence. His high-priced lawyers advised him to cooperate, hoping for leniency. Instead, he ranted about conspiracies and betrayal, making threats that only strengthened the prosecution's case. Lupe's attempt to cut a deal revealed even more crimes. She detailed years of evidence destruction, false documentation, and active participation in Kenneth's schemes. Her tearful claims of being manipulated fell flat when confronted with records of her willing involvement in destroying other people's lives. The custody hearing was particularly revealing. Lupe's criminal charges and demonstrated pattern of deception made the judge's decision straightforward. Alex was awarded primary custody of Emma and Thomas, with Lupe's access restricted to supervised visits pending the outcome of her criminal trial. The children deserve stability, the family court judge declared. Mr. McKinney has demonstrated consistent care and concern for their well-being, regardless of biological parentage. The same cannot be said for either Mrs. Young or Mr. Hayes. The transition wasn't easy. Emma and Thomas struggled to understand the dramatic changes in their lives. Alex arranged for family therapy, providing them space to process their feelings about their mother's crimes and their biological father's true nature. Biology doesn't define family, he assured them during a difficult session. Love, trust, and being there for each other. That's what makes a family real. Lorenzo returned to Henderson Global as head of compliance, implementing new safeguards against financial fraud. Flora's reinstatement as CFO advisor brought additional stability to the reconstructed leadership team. The evidence against Kenneth continued to grow. Detective Cherry's investigation uncovered connections to other unsolved cases. The precise brake line tampering that killed Robert Wilson matched several other suspicious accidents involving Kenneth's business rivals. He's looking at multiple life sentences, Robin reported. The DA is pushing for maximum penalties on all charges. Lupe's facing significant time too. Her plea deal fell apart when we discovered she'd lied about key evidence. Kenneth's arrogance finally shattered during his sentencing hearing. His carefully maintained facade crumbled as the judge detailed his crimes. Murder, conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice. The man who once dominated corporate boardrooms was reduced to incoherent protests as he was led away to serve consecutive life terms. Lupe's sentencing followed. Her attempts to paint herself as an unwitting accomplice failed when prosecutors presented evidence of her active participation in destroying lives. The judge was particularly harsh, citing her betrayal of not just her husband, but also her children's trust. Henderson Global emerged stronger from the crisis. Under new leadership, with transparent practices and strict ethical guidelines, the company's reputation gradually recovered. Alex's department implemented comprehensive auditing procedures, ensuring no future CEO could abuse their position as Kenneth had. The Wilson family legacy was finally honored properly. Robert's portrait returned to prominence in the company lobby, while Kenneth's was removed to gather dust and storage. Stacy established a corporate ethics foundation in her father's name, turning tragedy into positive change. For Alex, vindication came not from public acclaim, but from quieter moments. Watching his children heal and grow, knowing they were finally free from the toxic influence of Kenneth and Lupe's deceptions. Building a stronger, more ethical company that would be part of their inheritance. You should be proud, Flora told him after a late strategy meeting. You didn't just expose corruption. You helped rebuild something better from the ruins. Justice had been served, not just for Alex, but for all of Kenneth's victims. The man who had built an empire on murder and betrayal lost everything, while those he'd tried to destroy emerged stronger. The annual company party, once Kenneth's stage for humiliation, had become the scene of his ultimate downfall. The corporate world learned a valuable lesson. No amount of power could protect those who built their success on corruption and cruelty. Sometimes the most devastating revenge was simply exposing the truth and letting justice take its course. Long epilogue. The Wilson Memorial Ethics Center occupied the entire 42nd floor of Henderson Global's headquarters, its glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city. Alex McKinney stood at the window of his CFO office, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber. 5 years had passed since Kenneth Hayes' spectacular downfall, years that had transformed both the company and everyone involved. The quarterly ethics compliance reports are ready for review, Flora Stevens announced, entering his office with a tablet. Their weekly strategy meetings had evolved into something more personal over the years, leading to a quiet wedding in the company garden 2 years ago. Lorenzo's team found no red flags this quarter. Alex smiled, turning to face his wife. Flora's return as CFO advisor had been crucial in rebuilding Henderson Global's reputation. Their shared commitment to corporate integrity, combined with their experience of surviving Kenneth's machinations, had formed the foundation of both their professional partnership and their personal relationship. "How are the kids?" he asked, noting the family photo on his desk. Emma, now 15, and Thomas, 13, flanked by himself and Flora at their wedding. Emma's preparing for her debate competition. Thomas has soccer practice. Flora's smile softened. "They're asking if you'll make it to dinner tonight." Despite the board meeting, the children had flourished once freed from Lupe's toxic influence. Regular therapy had helped them process their complex feelings about their biological parents, while Flora's patient understanding had earned their trust and eventually their love. They called her mom now, their choice, not her suggestion. The latest update on Kenneth Hayes had arrived that morning. The former CEO's appeal had been denied for the third time, his multiple life sentences upheld. He'd aged badly in maximum security, his arrogance curdling into bitter rage. The guards reported he still ranted about conspiracy theories, unable to accept that his own actions had caused his downfall. Lupe's fate had been equally severe, though different in nature. Convicted as a co-conspirator in multiple felonies, she'd received 20 years without possibility of early parole. Her attempt to secure a lighter sentence by providing evidence had backfired when investigators discovered she'd lied about key details, trying to minimize her role even while cooperating. "Did you see this?" Flora handed Alex a newspaper clipping. Lupe's latest parole hearing had made the local news. Her once immaculate appearance had deteriorated in prison, her designer clothes replaced by standard issue orange. The board had denied her petition, citing her continued lack of genuine remorse and her attempts to manipulate the system. She tried contacting Emma again, Alex mentioned, setting the clipping aside. Another letter about how she's changed, how she deserves a second chance. How did Emma handle it? Returned it unopened. She said she's not interested in fake apologies. Pride mixed with sadness in Alex's voice. His daughter had grown into a remarkably perceptive young woman, perhaps because of rather than despite her early experiences with deception. The transformation of Henderson Global stood as testament to how thoroughly Kenneth's toxic influence had been excised. Under Stacy's leadership as chairwoman, with Alex as CFO and a board selected for their commitment to ethical practices, the company had become a model of corporate governance. Lorenzo Humphrey headed the newly created compliance division, his own experience with false accusations making him particularly suited to identifying potential fraud. His reputation had been fully restored, his false conviction expunged. He'd even met his wife through the ethics training program he developed. Detective Robin Cherry had retired from the force last year, but not before closing several cold cases linked to Kenneth's business practices. The pattern of suspicious accidents among his rivals had finally been explained, though some victims would never see justice. She still consulted for the Wilson Memorial Ethics Center, sharing her expertise in recognizing signs of corporate corruption. Stacy had found her own path to healing. Robert Wilson's death had been fully investigated, the truth about his murder finally public. She channeled her grief into creating positive change, establishing scholarships for children of white-collar crime victims, and supporting corporate transparency initiatives. The annual company party, once Kenneth's stage for humiliation, had been transformed into a celebration of ethical business practices. The Wilson Award for Corporate Integrity was presented each year to employees who demonstrated exceptional commitment to transparency and accountability. A knock at the office door interrupted Alex's reflections. Thomas stood in the doorway, soccer uniform slightly muddy, his green eyes, so like Kenneth's, bright with excitement. "Dad, we won the championship. Coach says we're going to state." His grin widened as he spotted Flora. "Mom, did you see my last save?" "Wouldn't have missed it," Flora smiled, embracing her stepson. The word step had fallen away years ago, unnecessary in the face of genuine love and commitment. Emma arrived moments later, debate team folders clutched to her chest. "Dad, can you help me practice my argument about corporate responsibility? It's kind of ironic considering history makes it relevant," Alex replied, gathering his things. "Let's discuss it over dinner. I think we all have some expertise in that area." As they left the office as a family, Alex reflected on how completely life had changed. Kenneth Hayes had lost everything: his company, his freedom, his carefully constructed facade of respectability. Lupe had sacrificed her children's love and her own freedom for an illusion of power and luxury. Their choices had led to their own destruction. The next morning's paper would carry another story about Henderson Global, this time praising their industry-leading ethical practices. The article would mention Kenneth and Lupe as cautionary tales, their downfall serving as a warning to others who might consider choosing expediency over integrity. Emma's debate topic was particularly fitting. Corporate responsibility wasn't just about following rules. It was about understanding that every decision affected real lives. Kenneth and Lupe had forgotten that, treating people as disposable pieces in their games of power and pleasure. The Wilson Memorial Ethics Center would continue teaching that lesson. New employees would learn about Robert Wilson's murder and Kenneth's downfall, understanding that no amount of power could protect those who built their success on corruption and cruelty. Thomas spotted the newspaper clipping about Lupe's parole denial on Alex's desk as they prepared to leave. "Do you ever regret how things turned out?" he asked quietly. "No," Alex replied honestly. "Your mother and Kenneth made their choices. Real family, real success. They're built on truth and integrity, not manipulation and lies." Flora took Alex's hand as they walked to the elevator. Emma and Thomas chatted about their achievements, their voices echoing in the space where Kenneth had once held court. The sunset painted the city gold, a reminder that sometimes the worst betrayals led to the best outcomes. Justice had many forms. For Kenneth, it was a life sentence contemplating his failures. For Lupe, it was the loss of her children's love and her own freedom. For Alex, it was the family he'd built from the ashes of betrayal, stronger and more genuine than before. The company party that was meant to humiliate him had instead become his moment of triumph. Justice had been served not just for him, but for Robert Wilson and all of Kenneth's other victims. As he left the office that evening, surrounded by his real family, Alex reflected that the best revenge wasn't just exposing the truth. It was living well in its aftermath. The city lights began to twinkle as they drove home, each one a star in the constellation of their new life. Sometimes, Alex knew, the deepest wounds led to the most profound healing. Kenneth and Lupe had tried to destroy him, but instead, they'd helped him build something far more precious than they'd ever had, a life built on